interview with Piers, do you know what? It was really good fun. I have to say, I spent a long time, I mean, I know him, but I spent quite a long time researching him. There was a lot that I didn't know, and some of the interviews that he did at CNN were quite jaw-dropping. But I was nervous just before the beginning, but actually it was brilliant. And he's a brilliant person to interview. You know, he has a lot of opinions. He's not frightened to give them. He's a friend of Donald Trump's. You know, he has a lot to talk about. So it's not difficult actually trying to get conversation out of him. The only thing was at the beginning, as I was literally about to start, I said, "Hi." And he went, "Right, I'm going to stop you there," and got out two pieces of paper and started a monologue about all the insults that people are given to him. And I'm just like, oh, this is going to be hard, but I think I managed to rein it back. He's actually editor-in-chief of the Mail Online in America, and he obviously writes a column for Event magazine. So, I mean, his style, you know, I've got to tell you, he was one of the rudest people to me ever when he was editor of the Daily Mirror. I remember asking a question and standing there open mouthed when he replied to me. We've subsequently become actually, you know, good mates, but he was 30 or whatever, and, you know, given that position at that age, you can kind of understand it. Yeah, I mean, he does a brilliant job. I love reading his column. Look, you couldn't be how you were. When I started in advertising, you know, I was working with men that would scream and shout and swear down the phone and often have media owners up against a wall. That wouldn't happen now. So, you know, how his journalism style now is fantastic, but how it was when it was 28, no, it wouldn't translate into today's world. Well, I think the qualities that any editor has to have is to understand, well, they have to be commercial, but they have to make sure that the lines aren't blurred. You know, you don't ever want to pull the wool over a consumer or reader's eye, because that's in nobody's interest. So, you know, you have to understand the business aspect of a news brand, but you also have to understand digital. So you have to understand that you can't, very rarely can you ever have a splash on a national newspaper now, because it will appear in the internet first. So I think it's about balancing those things, understanding the business of news brands as well, and being able to kind of see all sides of that. So regarding New Day and my opinion on that, I haven't changed my opinion on it. I still think they're mad. Their circulations are down, their cover price has gone up. I think they're going to struggle, you know, and I remember seeing the article that said that it was all about making people feel good. And yet I can't tell you how many times I've looked at the front cover and thought, God, that depresses me, or that's terrible. And, you know, so no, I'm with the opinion, but I did also say at the time that I found that it was crazy they didn't have an online presence. And I totally stand by that, especially when you look at The Independent and the fact that their digital kind of app has gone through the roof. I stand by what I said. The media landscape is disrupted every single day. I absolutely would be a fool if I tried to predict what's going to happen in 3 years, let alone in 10 years. So I don't know. Listen, we've all spoken about the fact that we know that we're going to have very different people in our agencies. You know, we're going to have data people, analysts, but you're still going to have people that are creative thinkers, that can connect with clients. It will change, but I'm not about to predict how it's going to change. It's really interesting that you mentioned diversity, because obviously at Mediacom we were one of the first to talk about the fact that our agency had to represent the people that we're talking to, and we put apprenticeship schemes in place and lots of other things. You know, Karen Blackett, our chairwoman, goes out and talks about this the whole time. Do I think that people talk about it too much? Yes, I do, and I have to be honest that I've been quite disappointed at some of the sessions. I think there's a real lack of diversity, and I would have thought if you're going to talk about it, you have to do it. Now, we did a session last year on diversity, so we didn't do it again this year, because actually it's no point talking about it, you have to do it. And I've been into too many sessions at Adweek, honestly, on tech specifically, where it's just men, just white men. And and I think more has got to be done. Well, to be honest, I don't feel that I need to convince people commercially that diversity is a good thing. There are so many surveys. I mean, literally every day I read from the Harvard Business Review or Deloitte's or something that actually it's good business sense is to have a diverse workforce. It's funny, I did ask a question, there was a Wired panel and it was all women on it, and I said, I know that 3 years ago the answer would have been no to this, but do you feel quotas are the answer now because things are moving too slowly? It's quite interesting because half the panel still said, I hate quotas and no. The other half said, I do hate quotas, but I think it's an evil necessity because it's not moving quick enough. And I don't know the answer to it is the honest truth, but it is something that I think as an industry we should be looking at to see how we can move it on.
Piers Morgan kicked off day 3 in an interview with Mediacom UK Managing Director Claudine. The former Daily Mirror and News of the World editor predicted that print newspapers only have 20 years left, or less in some cases,